Hello everyone and welcome back to Legal Notes. Hope you all are doing great. So it's been too long since I uploaded any videos, and that's just because I have my exams going on right now and there are few left, but still I managed some time to shoot and upload this video. And today we'll be doing Indian Contract Act, which is about free consent, the topic of free consent, and we'll be covering from section 14 to section 22 except section 19 because it doesn't fall under the topic of free consent. So section 14 deals with what is free consent. Basically it is not defined there, it's just said any consent which is not given under section 15, that is coercion, section 16, that is undue influence, section 17, that is fraud, section 18, which is misrepresentation, and section 20, 21, and 22 covering mistake. So if any person gives his consent freely and with free will, without any influence on him, without any pressure from other person, that consent is said to be free. So to learn these sections in sequence, I made a sentence here over here, that is free coin from me, and these four words cover all the sections from section 14 to section 22, which are enough for you to learn or remember these sections in sequence. So first word here is free. Free means free consent, which is covered under section 14. Coin can be divided into words co and in. So co covers coercion, which is section 15, and in covers influence, which is undue influence, which is covered under section 16. Now comes the third word, that is fraud, from. Now divide this third word in two parts, fro and m. Fro here stands for fraud, which is covered under section 17, and m stands for misrepresentation, which is covered under section 18. The last word remains is me, which is obviously mistake, and that covers section 20, 21, and 22. So starting with coercion, what is coercion? If any person commits or threatens to commit any act forbidden by IPC, or detains or threatens to detain any property unlawfully to the prejudice of the person in a way to make that person agree, to get into an agreement with himself, that person is said to make the other person give his consent under or by coercion. So if someone threatens you that if you don't do it according to his will, he'll commit such act which is against law, or he threatens to commit so just like, say, if you don't a person says to you that if you don't agree to be in contract with me, then I'll kill you, or I'll torture you, or anything like that which is against law, then, and if you agree on his threats, you agree that I'll contract with you, then you are said to give your consent by coercion. It's not your free consent, you haven't given that consent by your will. Okay, so that is said to be consent by coercion. Next comes the undue influence, which is section 16. So a person in dominant position obtaining unfair advantage of the person who is in the inferior position, that is said to be undue influence. If a person take advantage of the person inferior to him, that is undue influence. So for here are given three type of dominant positions. The dominant positions which are given in this section is, first one is real or apparent authority, second is fiduciary relation, and third is person in mental or bodily distress. So under real or apparent authority, the main relationships here consider of a relationship between a teacher and the student. So teacher is in real authority over the student. He is the dominant one in this relationship. So if by using his dominance he makes the student agree to any of his words or any of his works, then that teacher is said to have obtained the consent of his student by undue influence. Second relationship is fiduciary relations. So as learned in company law, fiduciary relations are relations which are based on trust. So fiduciary relation here covers the relationship of a parent and a child, brother and sister, husband and wife, master and servant. These all are fiduciary relations. So if a person in such kind of dominant position take advantage of the other, then that person is said to obtain the other person's consent through undue influence in the fiduciary relationship. So taking an example, if parents um, wants their child to agree to them, even if the child is minor or major, it doesn't matter here, but if they want their child to agree with them, they here can use their dominant position, and if they do so, that child is said to give his consent under the undue influence of his parents. So third type of dominant position discussed here is um, about the person in mental or bodily distress. So if an ill person is used by any other person, and if any other fit person takes advantage of that ill person and takes his consent with the use of his dominant position, then that person is said to have undue influence for that agreement which he has made with that sick person. So this is the concept of undue influence here. Third is fraud. Fraud, okay, in fraud is a fact that fraud includes the intention to deceive someone. Fraud is done with the intention to deceive someone, and it is with the wrongful intention. Obviously, if you want to deceive someone, then that is wrongful intention. So fraud firstly involves false statement of fact. If you are legally bound to state a fact, and if you are expected to reveal that fact and you don't do so, you don't do as per the expectations, then you are said to commit the fraud. If by doing so you are causing some damage to the other person. Okay, so first one is active concealment of a fact. That is the same thing that I elaborated to you right now, that if you are expected to reveal something but you don't do it with intention, that and you know that if you don't reveal that fact, some other person is going to get hurt, or can be can get can can be in damage, then you are said to commit fraud. Second thing is promise made without any intention to perform it. See, if you promise someone that, yeah, I'll do that for you, but at that time of promising you didn't have any intention to perform that promise afterwards, and you know that if you don't perform that promise in future, whenever you are supposed to perform that, by not performing that promise, you will be causing damage to the person to whom you have promised to do that thing. And by knowing that, in fact you know that you won't perform that promise, then that is said to be fraud. You knew that if you won't perform that promise, you'll cause damage to him, but still you said that, yeah, I will perform, with the thinking that yes, I won't perform it later on, I won't stick to my words. Okay, third thing is any other act fitted to deceive. So beside these two acts, if any other act is done with the intention to deceive someone, with the intention to cause damage to him, or with any other wrongful intention, then that is also considered as a fraud. The last is any act or omission which the law declares as fraudulent. Not only the Contract Act, but any other acts which are prevalent, or which are in India, which are prevailed in India. If any of such acts which declares a particular law as fraudulent, and if that person does that act or does that omission, then that person is said to commit fraud. Okay, one more thing is here that a mere consent is not fraud, or not speaking something. Like if someone says something and you just don't reply to them, you just don't give any confirmation or any denial, then you are not said to commit fraud. So if someone shows up and says that I'm going to do such act or such act, and you just say do what you like, later on it won't come up to you that you gave your consent. You didn't give your consent, you just said do as you like. Okay, so it was not fraud or anything else. You didn't give him any consent. So next is misrepresentation. So fraud and misrepresentation have a little difference between them. Misrepresentation is without any intention to deceive, it is without any wrongful intention, but still you state something falsely, but it's without any wrongful intention. So first thing here is positive assertion, and the second is breach of duty, and the third is acting innocently to an agreement. So yeah, starting with positive assertion. Positive assertion is something that you believe to be true, but it isn't the same case. The statement is not true as is thought by you. So it's just making a false statement without any intention to deceive. Positive assertion is like, for example, you thought that the car was for rupees 5 lakhs, say, and you stated sorry, you stated it to a friend that the car there is on sale is for rupees 5 lakhs, but the actual money for the car that was to be given was 10 lakhs. So here you didn't have any intention to deceive that friend of yours or any other person, but still you made a false statement, although such a lie is not punishable, but it's just an example for you to clear the things. Second is breach of duty. So breach of duties is when the person making a false statement gains some advantage at the cost of other party, but the statement made is without any intention to deceive. This is misrepresentation. For example, just take a grantor of the license is bound to disclose any facts which is related to that license, but he don't do so. Here he doesn't have any personal gains, or maybe he has, but he didn't have any intention to deceive that person to whom he has given the license, whom he have granted the license, but still he is said to misrepresent the fact, okay, or misrepresent the statement. Third is acting innocently to an agreement. So in this case, if one party acts innocently and that causes another party to make a mistake, so there it is said to be a misrepresentation. um, in this misrepresentation, either through positive assertion or breach of duty or acting innocently, there is no intention to deceive any other person. Okay, so that's the main difference which distinguishes misrepresentation and mistake. So now comes, sorry, misrepresentation and fraud. Now comes mistake. So we are going to study mistake under 20, 21 and 22, and also under section 13, which although is not included in free consent but is a main part of mistake. So let's start with section 13. When there is no consensus ad idem or there is absence of consent, that is said to be read under section 13. Here the consent of both parties is given and is not freely given. Okay, now comes the second point, mistake as to a matter of fact essential to the agreement, which is covered under section 20. Here the both parties under a mistake of fact gives their consent. So under section 20, as we all may know it, that a mistake of fact is permissible, is allowed as a defense, but a mistake of law is not permissible or accepted as a defense. So in section 20, if any of the parties or if both the parties give their consent in mistake of fact, that is said to be by mistake, and that can't go against the law. Now comes section 22. Section 22 covers mistake of one party as to matter of fact. Okay, in section 20 there were both the parties took something written in the contract in two different ways. But under section 22, only one of the parties mistook something differently or took that thing differently from the other party or as stated in the contract. Then there is said to be a mistake which can be corrected. But under section 21, it is said that contract is not affected by mistake of law. If something is done claiming that it was a mistake of law or that we didn't know it, that is of no use here. Okay, so under section 13, as I didn't explain it, sorry. So under section 13, if two or more persons they don't agree to the same thing, and that is said to be no consent on their part. Okay, if both of them want something or the other from the contract and the parties don't click together, there it is said to be a mistake. And I was explaining section 21 here. So here it is said that a contract is not affected by mistake of law, which means that contract doesn't become voidable because it was caused by mistake. But under IPC also, you might have heard this or you might have learned this, and under contract also or any other law prevailing in India, it is the same, that mistake of law isn't a defense and it can't be used as defense here as well, because if there is said to be a mistake of law that we didn't know about this law, that contract can't be voidable. And if it is a mistake of fact as stated in section 20 and 22, that can be voidable or void ab initio, but under section 21 it can't be voidable. So this was all about free consent, which is now complete for good. And if you like this video, please do comment down below and tell me, and do share it, like it, and tell your friends about my channel. And yeah, I'm really happy that our channel, our community is going too fast, and I'm really happy and I'm really thankful to you for that. And yeah, I'm getting a lot more comments now and lot more appreciation, and also a few bad things I'm hearing from some of you, but that doesn't affect me as long as you guys support me. And thanks for your support and have a lovely day. Bye bye.